Good morning, everybody. I'm Eureka John, and you're at Eureka Street Crypto Podcast. And it is, what is today's date? January 21st, 2022. It is 6:22 in the morning on Saturday. And this is episode number 496, and slowly creeping my way towards that 500 mark. I don't even know if I'm going to continue doing this after the 500th show. I'm only getting down to maybe one or two a month at this point, and I've just been so busy with a bunch of other stuff. I started off, flipped on the switch October 24th, 2020, and just started creating episodes and learning, just kind of navigating my way through this crypto space. And as I say, this was my message in a bottle to reach out to other people who are interested in this stuff. This is my sandbox to play and experiment around with. And what was the other one? I don't know. I can't remember. But anyway, so I think I've come real far, and I started off just as a way, just getting involved and learning about Bitcoin as kind of almost in a way to just, get some beer money. But since then, I haven't drank in over 3 years, and I've gone down this rabbit hole in the crypto space, started my own YouTube channel, and then moved on to creating other types of podcasts. I mean, just the amount, just the financial speculation part of this is only just the very, very tiny tip of the iceberg of what's going on right now with, web3, blockchain, with AI, with IoT, the Internet of Things, with 5G, it's just all this stuff is converging at once, big data, and it's just like we're reaching a point of singularity, where it's going to be out of our control, and if we're not already there yet, and it's just, if anything, even if there's nothing I can do about it or whatever, it's still good for my own psyche to just know what's happening, and know that what the squawk box on the mainstream media is telling me is all pre-programmed, and a lot of it is now being written by AI, as we'll explore here. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. Okay, all right. So let's get on to some of these topics. Nothing I do on this show is formal. Okay, it's just me poking around through some tabs of some things that I found are interesting, some bookmarks on Twitter and LinkedIn and stuff like that I've saved to just kind of marinate on it later on camera. And so that's exactly what I do with this show. I'm not here to give you a list of techniques, A, B, C, D, you need to do this to become rich in 2023 or anything like that. It's nothing like that. So if that's what you're expecting to learn about crypto in that way, you're at the wrong place. But anyway, so let's go over here to CoinGecko. I haven't really been starting with price, but it's good. Who turned on? It's in day mode. Okay, hold on. Let me go over here, and I will put the screen up for those of you watching on YouTube. For those of you listening on the podcast, I'll just try to say what is on the screen. Okay, so, this CoinGecko is in day mode. Let me switch this over to night mode. Oh, much better. Yeah. Try to put down your phone before, and I'm not going to preach, but, try to put down your phone at least an hour, try not to sleep with the phone in front of your face, basically. Put your phone in airplane mode. like put your phone far away from your head. Some people even go to the extremes of turning off the Wi-Fi router. I don't do that, but maybe I should. I don't know. And try not to stare at the blue screen until you fall asleep. It's just terrible for your circadian rhythm. If you don't know what your circadian rhythm is, that's the rhythm in which you sleep, and the sleep is the best thing you can do for yourself. It's the time when your body repairs itself. And right now we're in a time where our body really needs repairing from everything even if we're eating perfect and exercising and doing everything that we should, crossing all our T's and dotting our I's, we are still being bombarded with toxins, and the sleep is the perfect time. And now with the blue light, it's attacking the way we sleep. So Try to do that. Really, I mean, I'm serious. Okay, because I've been sleeping very well. I turn off my phone. I try to turn off my phone well before I go to sleep. I put the phone in airplane mode away from my head. I go to bed at like 8 o'clock every night, and it's just like I have a regular sleep pattern, and I feel 100% better with my exercise. And I exercise every day. The eating part still not quite there yet, but I do eat quite a bit of processed foods. But I'm becoming more and more conscious of trying to eat less processed foods. Definitely have cut out the seed oils. Seed oils are basically vegetable oil and stuff like that you cook in. It's basically diesel engine lubricant, if you didn't know that. So cut that out and you will feel a lot better, I guaranteed. Anyway, this is not a health podcast. So let's take a look here. Bitcoin is over 20,000 again. It got down pretty far, and so everybody's like super stoked. The past 7 days, it's up 15.2% at $22,932.35. Ethereum's at $1,648.75, up 13.4% in the past 7 days. So that is really cool. I haven't really been paying attention to the activity of a lot of these other tokens in quite a while. I've never even heard of this one down here, Aptos. I mean, that's like up 80.2%. But there's always those weirdos that are, that shoot up and then they hover there for a while and then they tank or something happens, just like SBF and Do Kwon of Luna. Everybody swears by this or that exchange or token for a while, and then it turns out that it's all just a big Ponzi. Unfortunately, we've seen tons of Ponzi's, but that's just the life in the crypto space. As the crypto space matures and develops, we are still in the Wild West. Even now in 2023, we're still in the Wild West, like well into 10 or so years since all this technology has been invented. So same thing with the internet happened in the 90s. We had the dot-com burst, and we had a dot-com business being built for every single thing, and that was basically just a website with nothing behind it, just like you have tokens that pop up out of the woodwork with a white paper explaining what it does to lure in investors and for people to buy the token. And then once all the tokens are bought, then the devs and the founders take off, and in a lot of cases they're anonymous, and they take off with all your dollars and leave you with all this vaporware and these tokens just like that are worth nothing. And so you have to watch out for that. I have been caught in things like that as well. And an NFT project called Freaks and Guilds, I actually kind of enjoyed playing that game too. And they just took off with all the money. So, you know what? Live and learn, crash and burn. And that is what happens, especially in the crypto space, but especially in any kind of innovation. With any kind of innovation, there's always going to be the hucksters that come around and, But I still believe in the mission of it, of decentralization, of creating your own personal autonomy, of creating your own personal identity in the digital space, because we are moving into the digital world, whether or not you like it or not. I mean, everything we do has some sort of digital component to it. Our logging into our bank, paying our car note, whatever with money, and then now even with medical type of stuff. You can do your doctor's appointments online. If you have like a minor ailment and you just need some kind of prescription drug, there's tons of online classes. Education is being overtaken by the digital space, and in all that digital space, you basically need to be able to change and buy things. And it would be nice to buy things like you can buy with cash without some kind of banking intermediary to audit your every single little step. You say, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. Well, you're not yet, maybe. But, what if at some point, and this is very real and very now, they start tracking your every single move for your carbon footprint, right? And then, for how much meat you eat, or, where you go, geo-tracking on your phone, and start taxing you on that type of stuff. And all this can be done with the central bank digital currency, the CBDC, which is the digital coin that is going to be brought in to the United States by the government, right? And then that's track and trace. And this is everything that the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and all those people that are meeting in Davos and Switzerland right now. That's all the type of stuff that they're scheming in combination with AI, in combination with IoT and the blockchain, and all that stuff is converging. So we have one of two directions we can take: the centralized route, which would be complete enslavement of everybody in monitoring, tracking, tracing, and surveillance. And in the name of climate change, to be able to tax us on all our carbon footprints while they sit there and take all their private jets all around the world and to Davos, Switzerland to meet and talk about how they're going to enslave us. But and then also, so yeah, the CBDC, or we can take the route of going the decentralized identity route. And because we don't want to have to become a Luddite and give up the entire digital space in order to be able to participate, in order to be able to stay away from this stuff. We still want to be able to participate in the digital space. I mean, I love online classes, I love if I have something wrong or if my kids have sniffles and they need some prescription grade cough syrup or whatever, I can log online and see a WebMD type of nurse or a doctor, and they can give a prescription right there because they can kind of see, you on the webcam. And yeah, that's great. But I don't want all that to be tracked and traced, and it would be nice to be able to log in anonymously to certain types of things as well. And this is where the whole concept of the digital ID comes into place. Because if you have a digital ID, then that immediately makes you tracked and traceable and everything like that, with like zero effort from the government. And, right now, in order to pay for anything, it all has to go through Visa or MasterCard or American Express, and all that is tracked and traced as well, and audited. And, you can't do a lawn mowing job without somebody paying you on Venmo. Then somehow, a chunk of that $20 that you've made to mow the lawn somehow gets taxed at the end of the year. Then you're a criminal if you don't pay that taxes, right? So, okay. So that's why we need this digital cash and why we need an anonymous digital ID and stuff like that. I found some articles. I'll start with this one here. Towards Digital Self-Sovereignty, the web3 Identity Stack. I'm not going to read the whole article, but I will put the links in the description. This article covers core concepts in a decentralized identity, in the evolution. Okay, this article covers core concepts in decentralized identity, the evolution of identity on the internet, a layer-by-layer overview of Web3 identity infrastructure stack. So they go into the details of all the infrastructure and how you can set it up, and related developments and privacy primitives. Proof of personhood, the proof that you're actually a person, compliance, and the application layer will be covered in a future article. Okay, so anyway, so identity is an emergent property consisting of data associated with a person. A lot of people, or I thought, I think of identity as an 80s kid, the geeks, the preps, the jocks, and if you're a teenager, you associate your identity with whatever type of music you listen to. I was certainly associating my identity with like Depeche Mode back in the 80s. Late 80s. So anyway, identity is an emergent property consisting of data associated with a person, entity, or an object. In the physical world, we hold this data in our brains in the form of abstract reputation and mental associations. In the digital world, identity is formalized into two components: the identifier, which is a unique set of characteristics or numbers that identifies a subject, like your passport number, your Twitter handle, or your student ID. And then there's the data associated with that subject, the travel history, the tweets and follows, and academic achievements. So, creating an identity layer for the internet is a hard problem because there's a lack of agreement on what it should be and how it should be run. Everybody has their own ideas on what an ID should be. Digital identity is related to context, and we experience the internet through many different kinds of content which exists in at least as many different contexts. Yeah, we use the internet. The internet is just one big tool, and we use the internet for a lot of different reasons, for a lot of different contexts. And what I'm doing this morning on the internet might not be quite the same thing as what I'm doing later today whenever I'm trying to keep my kids occupied and watching like Hello Kitty, right? So that's the thing about YouTube preferences and setups. I have the dad on my YouTube, and I'll watch my technical videos, and I'll watch my how-tos and and all that type of stuff, and my overviews of Web3 topics. But then on that very same channel, I'll have my daughter come up to me and hang out, and she'll want to sit on my laptop while I'm on my computer, and I'll turn on Hello Kitty and Wile E. Coyote and all that stuff for her. So so in my preferences, it shows Bitcoin fundamentals next to Hello Kitty. Okay, and so there's a lot of different context in why I'm using the internet. Just the context of my digital identity is fractured, right? Okay, so creating an identity for the internet is a hard problem because there's a lack of agreement on what it should be and how it should be run. Digital identity is related to context, and we experience the internet through many kinds of content which exists in at least as many different contexts. Today, much of our digital identity is fractured and under the control of a few parties whose interests are to prevent spillover from their context to any other. Okay, these entities right here are corporations, and they see customer relationships as key assets, and they're reluctant to give up control, right? So far, no single approach has served as motivation to do so. Even ad hoc identity one-offs are better than a framework that is out of control. All right, and then number two, specific industries like finance, they have unique needs, compliance when it comes to maintaining digital relationships with customers and vendors. And then number three, governments have needs that distinguish them from other kinds of organizations. For example, jurisdiction over driver's license and passports. This paradigm has created a power asymmetry between the individuals and the parties that manage our identities and data. It restricts our autonomy to consent, selectively disclose information about ourselves, and port our identities across contexts for a consistent experience both online and offline. Decentralized identity has been a collective effort long before the rise of crypto and Web3. The overarching goal is to give individuals back autonomy over their identity without relying on centralized monolithic gatekeepers. Misuse of customer data and erosion of trust in large corporations has put decentralization at heart of the next era of internet identity. And I totally agree with that. Since I have my Texas driver's license, and the reason that I would give my ID to a cop if he pulled me over for speeding is different than the reason I would give my ID to somebody if I were to go into a bar, right? On Crypto Sapiens, another podcast that I work on, Evan McMullen of disco.xyz, she said this pretty concisely, and I will play this clip for you here real quick. So in her interview with Humpty Calderon, and this just got published yesterday, so go to cryptosapiens.xyz and you can see the full interview, but here's a little clip of it. There.
You used a word here that I'm going to assume most people don't know what it means. Can you define briefly zero knowledge proofs, and how do those interact with your self-sovereign identity and these credentials?
For sure. So if we imagine that, we, the crypto sapiens, are running through the Web3 landscape, carrying our tokens in our wallets and data about ourselves in our data backpacks, carrying them from one app experience to another. When we think about a zero knowledge proof, this will allow us to share general information about ourselves to determine whether we fit the requirements to enter someone's party, to enter their app, to receive privileges in their on-chain interaction, but we're not revealing the plain text contents of what that data is. So to borrow an example from our beloved Harvard professor, Larry Lessig, that he has been talking about since the late 1990s, you can imagine that today, when you go to a bar in the United States, you've got to present a driver's license or similar ID to prove that you are of age to enter the establishment. But in handing that credential over to the bouncer, you're also telling them how tall you are, how much you weigh, your eye color, what street you live on, way more information than is required for them to discern whether or not your data fits their requirements. So instead, in the future, you might imagine that a zero knowledge proof could enable us to share our identity data for that establishment to receive a thumbs up. Yes, Humpty is of age or is appropriately qualified to enter this establishment. And then we proceed on through. So we're able to determine determine that yes, indeed, this party fits the requirements of our accessibility, but we aren't asking what exactly is their data. So sort of in conclusion, zero knowledge proofs allow us to change the question for apps from what is your data to does your data fit my requirements.
Okay, so yeah, that was a really great explanation by Evan McMullen of Disco.xyz. Go to cryptosapiens.xyz and you'll find that whole episode. It's an outstanding episode about what decentralized ID is all about, from the basics to more advanced topics. And then she's talking about zero knowledge proofs. So how can you prove who you are in a digital space without basically giving up tons of information about yourselves and without some large monolithic entity, corporation, government, or whatever, gatekeeping and keeping all that information and possibly using it against you, or also getting hacked and then having that data leaked everywhere, and then I've preached before on previous episodes, a lot of times you're giving up that information about yourself for free, and then those entities are selling that data and using it for advertising and all that stuff and making billions of dollars off of your information, or AI is using it to feed itself and not paying you for the food that it eats, because AI eats data. Anyway, so yeah, there's an interesting project called Holonym. Clint Amenick, one of my fellow Journo DAO colleagues, he is friends with the people here, and I believe he's doing some work on this project. It's called holonym.io. Let's go here to the homepage. And Holonym, basically, it uses zero knowledge proofs, and it purports itself to be a passport for your Web3 ID, to be able to be anonymous. But okay, I'll let this website explain it. So your Holo is your ZK passport for Web3. I don't know if they have a token or anything like that. But anyway, so you can access fair airdrops. You can vote anonymously on things. A lot of times that's another use case is voting. People don't have to. All people have to know when you vote is, one, that you're of age to vote, and two, that you're eligible to vote in that district. If you are voting on something in Austin, Texas, you need to prove that you live in Austin, Texas, and that you're over 18, and that's it. They don't need to know anything else about you. All right. And then that you could recover your wallet if you lose your keys. I've lost my keys to a wallet. When I first started out doing crypto stuff, there was like $800 and something worth of stuff on there, and that sucked. Anyway, it's secured by zero knowledge proofs, and that's what Evan just described in that clip. So fully decentralized, private, and anonymous. How's that possible? And they go through the white paper. All right, so let's take a quick look at this. There is a clip. Okay, I'm gonna hop over to something else here, and then I'll hop back to Holonym. But this also helps describe, and I know a long time ago on some previous episodes, I've talked about the parable of Alibaba's cave. Google that if you have time, Alibaba's cave. I don't have time to explain it here, but that's traditionally what has been used to explain zero knowledge proofs. For those of you who can't see the screen and they're on audio, I'm going to scroll down. It's like this interactive PDF document. It's awesome. It has animations on it and everything. And it explains zero knowledge proofs. So I'll try to explain what's happening. So it shows like a desert scene. And here's the title page: Zero Knowledge Tech, the future of free association and free speech. The content was made thanks for the support of Radical Exchange. Hold on. Let me take a sip of my green tea. Switched over to green tea. I'm going to sit on the porch when the sun starts to rise and try to get some of that morning sun and recharge my body and my skin. Because the morning sun is the best sun if you can catch some of those rays. All right. Okay, so a decade in, it's clear that Web3 is still in its infancy, and it shows a little scene of a Western town, kind of like getting ready for a duel. There's a guy here with his hands up, but the rising sun and a tumbleweed passing by, and there's a bunch of crooks sitting there. And this one townsperson here, he's just with his hands up, surrendering, and all these crooks here and thieves are looking at him. Right now, the space is still a Wild West, for airdrop farmers and attackers. That's absolutely true. Like I said, where there's innovation, there are grifters and hucksters and criminals and hackers and all types of stuff. At the same time, it's not easy to prove you're not a bad actor without destroying your anonymity. And that is true. There's a lot of people that prefer to stay anon for various reasons in the Web3 and crypto space. And there's a lot of very well-informed, amazing people that are anonymous. And there are people that I've worked with now for 2 years in this Web3 space. I still don't know what their real names are. The guy who taught me everything that I know about sound engineering so far, which is not much, but he was an amazing sound engineer. All I know about him is his name is Soundman. That's it. I don't know anything else about the guy. I think he lives up around Chicago somewhere, but he's an amazing guy, and I've sat online with him, and him teaching me how to use audio equipment one-on-one, and yeah, I wish there was some other way. And now he's dropped out of the Web3 space, as far as I know, and or at least the Bankless DAO. And I don't know who this person is, and there's no way I can thank him for all the knowledge he's given me, just because his name is Soundman. Anyway, at the same time, it's not easy to prove you're not a bad actor without destroying your anonymity. All right, and so it goes down to the next slide here, and there's some clouds. And it says, so how do we help Web3 grow up and be a safer space? Okay, here we present you with Zero Knowledge Tech. And that goes over the sun. Zero Knowledge Tech enables whole new possibilities for people to come together safely and anonymously. Yes. And on top of that, let's say I want to create a movement to radically reform the California university system. Okay. And it zooms in on California. Open only to California residents. Okay. And who went to college and to people who went to college in California. If this movement used holonym, so this team did this for holonym, which is holonym is Zero Knowledge Tech, then they could vote, and people interested in joining could stay anonymous and yet proved they live in and went to school in California. And it shows this person, their ID being scanned by some kind of robot. There's a blue check mark. And then it just says vote. And then it shows all these people that are voting, and then the little blue check marks. This means they are now in anonymous mode, but at the same time, everyone knows they qualify to be a part of the voting. Okay. And a lot of times too, you want to be able to vote because voting can be dangerous. I mean, let's be honest here. It depends, especially in a very turbulent political climate. And there's a bunch of thunder clouds right here and some rain. The space is full of attackers, but with Zero Knowledge Tech, we are safe. And it shows the crowd of people using holonym underneath the umbrella. This technology allows everyone to take action with less risk of being personally attacked or persecuted for their activism. Like I said, voting can be a very volatile and revolutionary action that could possibly persecute you. That's where ring signatures came from, and the whole idea of Monero and using ring signatures for privacy online. It's because back in the ancient times in China, if somebody were to petition against the emperor, they all petitioned using, instead of a list, a top-down list, they put their names in the petition in a ring so nobody could figure out who the ringleader of that particular petition was. And so that's where the whole idea of ring signatures came from, if you didn't know. So take action with less risk of being personally attacked or persecuted for their activism. All right. So at a time of rising censorship and polarization, Zero Knowledge Tech is key to the future of free association and free speech. So yeah, if you vote on something, and you can do so without being canceled, because canceling is rampant. And then that's it. This content was made with the kind support of Radical Exchange, and it was made for holonym. So now we'll go back over to holonym. And so yeah, your holo is your ZK passport for Web3. And how holonym works is basically you let them scan your ID one time, right? It temporarily passes through Holonym's servers, so Holonym can sign the credentials, attesting to their authenticity to give to the user. Data is immediately deleted from Holonym servers and from the KYC provider's servers after the signature is generated. Even if a user does not trust a KYC provider, the protocol gives math/code based privacy. Each user's ID is anonymized in a mixer named the privacy pool. The privacy pool exists to break the link between a user's identity and a user's crypto address. This creates a level of privacy where even if a KYC provider on Holonym tries to surreptitiously collect user data, it still can't identify users' crypto wallets, and neither can Holonym Foundation. This level of privacy is only possible due to zero-knowledge proofs. So this whole idea of the mixer is really what made me understand it, because there are people that say, well, Bitcoin can be easily found out through Chainalysis. Yes, people use it for money laundering and criminals use it, but you can never, hide your actions on Bitcoin because blockchains are transparent. If you know somebody's crypto address, you can see every single thing that they've done. If you know somebody's Ethereum address, you can see every single asset that they hold and all the stuff that they did. The last episode I did that covered nukes, and it gave little badges for certain things that you've done in the Web3 space that you can prove when you go to a new space of how deep you are and how much of a veteran you are in the Web3 space without necessarily giving up your entire identity. But you can get these NFT badges for instance, being an Ethereum user for over 2 years, or for being a CryptoKitties user or stuff like that, So that's what Nukes does. Well, this is kind of like the opposite of Nukes. It basically puts your ID associated with your crypto address in a mixer with tons of other different IDs. And that's like I was saying, there are Bitcoin mixers as well, and that's how money launderers in a lot of cases are able to hide their identity whenever they're moving money around. And you don't have to just be a money launderer or criminal to want to hide your identity in your transactions, right? So that's the whole thing behind Tornado Cash, and that guy got arrested, I believe, in Denmark and stuff like that. And Tornado Cash it's a protocol. It's not owned by anybody, but they arrested one of the main developers because Tornado Cash was a mixer to be able to mix transactions, to where you couldn't see where a transaction came from or where it's going, and you couldn't match the two together. Because people want privacy for a lot of different reasons, So yeah, and it's not just criminal based. So your identity, you don't want everybody using every aspect of your identity. You don't need to have everybody know everything about you online. And so what this does is this uses zero-knowledge proofs, mixing your crypto address with your Web3 ID and in a mixer, much in the same way. And it creates pure anonymity online. So let's go to the About page, and I will read one more page of this. What is a holo? A holistic identity that lets you prove facts about yourself without revealing who you are. Why? Privacy on a public blockchain is hard. Yeah, blockchains are transparent, as I just said. However, giving data to centralized custodians puts privacy and security at risk. How does it work? After minting a holo using your government ID, you can use the holo to privately verify facts about yourself without another party holding your information. And so government ID, that's about as strong of an ID as you'll get. It prevents Sybil attacks. And if you don't know what a Sybil attack is when somebody creates a bunch of identities to overtake a system. For instance, say a county was voting on putting in a specific road that would really help alleviate traffic. But there's one person in that county that did not want that road because it cuts through a tiny corner of their land. Okay, they might not like that. But if everybody else in the county voted and said, okay, we really need this road because it's the only other way we have is to go 30 miles around. And so I'm sorry that the corner of this person's land is going to get cut off a little bit. Well, if that person that owned that land were to sit there and create 10,000 different versions and IDs of themselves and voted 10,000 times, then they could completely overtake the majority in that vote. I don't know, probably a terrible analogy, but because I do sympathize with the person with the land. But yeah, that's kind of gives you the idea. So having a digital ID and then having it be anonymous for voting purposes as well, all that stuff just kind of makes sense, and it counteracts the whole idea of the central bank digital currency, where the government or a centralized entity owns and tracks and traces you and all your information and taxes you as a result. You don't want that. You want the decentralized version, which is everything that I've explained here with zero knowledge proofs, with holonym, with disco.xyz, with things like Bright ID, with things like Orange Protocol. So yeah, there's a lot of different ones. In this first article I pulled up towards digital self-sovereignty, the web3 identity stack, this one also lays out a bunch of different options for you to look at and for you to explore and further. I'll put all the links to this stuff in the video description and in the podcast description. So but I do think that Web3 ID is a really, really important topic. And so as we move into this digital space, so you really need to become educated on it. And even if you choose not to do anything about it, at least be aware of it. Be aware of CBDCs and be aware of decentralization versus centralization in this web space. So, all right. That being said, I'm gonna go enjoy my Saturday and try to get some sunlight in and all that stuff, exercise, all that good stuff. All right. I will talk to you when I talk to you next, and when we get to 500, we'll decide if we're gonna keep going. All right. Let me find my outro. Here we are. Outro. Thank you for making it to the end of this program. If you actually like this content, give a thumbs up. And if you want to hear more, just hit the subscribe button. I'm available on YouTube, Odyssey, and BitChute, and on all the major podcasting platforms in audio version. Spotify specifically. If you would like to follow and leave a review, that would help a lot. I am also available on Twitter at EurekaJohn1. That's EUREKA John, JOHN, and the number 1. My DMs are always open. Feel free to shoot me a message. Thanks again.